Every Damn Day Fitness versus Healthy at Every Size. When does a movement go too far? Welcome back to another edition of Fitness Under Fire. We are a channel dedicated to exploring current and controversial fitness and health topics. Now keep in mind, the sides and the topics are chosen at random, which means that whatever opinions we've expressed don't necessarily reflect our own. We're just trying to do justice to the topic so that you, the audience member, can decide for yourself of where you stand. And for today, on one side, we've got Al. And on the other side, we've got Christina. And for today, we are covering the topic of Every Damn Day Fitness versus the Healthy at Every Size movement. When does a movement go too far? Now, to give you guys a little bit of a background, a few weeks ago, Alan Roberts over at EDDF, or Every Damn Day Fitness, his Instagram account was shut down, and this is after a lot of people reported him for copyright infringement, and it doesn't seem like there was any copyright infringement. However, if this is done en masse, if a lot of reporting is done, then the Instagram account will be shut down. So, take it away. What are your opinions on this?
Okay, so the important thing for us here is to remember that the people that have been launching these complaints have been from the Healthy at Every Size movement.
Yeah.
And essentially it actually looks like they kind of conspired and were prodded to do so, but we'll get into that a little later.
Conspiracy might be a little exaggerating.
I don't know, there's a video that kind of shows, but we'll get to that. But the first point that I want to make about when a movement goes too far, they go too far when they mislead or damage people within their own movement. And that's exactly what this is a demonstration of. So first off, before we even get to the topic, let's address Alan for a second. He's being labeled as fat phobic, he's being labeled as a hater of obese people. Really nothing could be further from the truth, and the evidence doesn't show that about him at all. In fact, quite the opposite. He's a person who trains and helps obese people. And if you can get past his salty language, which some people can't,
stay in your motherfucking lane. They're fucking idiots. This motherfucker way more than this motherfucker. Fucking shit.
But if you can get past the inflammatory language and take a look at his content, he's actually most of the time defending obese people. And we're gonna pop up a clip right now where you're actually gonna see him recently standing up for obese people.
That show before was literally the monetization of the systematic mental and physical torture of obese people. It was disgusting.
So yeah, definitely seems like someone who hates obese people. No, I don't think so. And I just wanted to get that right off the table. I think there's absolutely no credence to the idea that he's fat phobic or against people who are obese.
Yeah, I can't argue against that. That's true.
Yeah, and I just wanted to get that right out the way. But the first point that I have about when a movement goes too far is back to this idea of when it misleads people or harms people in its own group. And that's certainly what's happening here. They are misleading people about Alan. They're painting him as this demagogue who's out to get fat people, and nothing could be further from the truth. But even more general, if we take a look at what's going on apart from Alan, a lot of the people in the movement are being misled by some of its leaders and are being allowed or enabled to live in self-denial and to lack self-awareness about the problems that they're facing. And this isn't coming from me. This is actually something that I've heard from a lot of obese people, people that I've trained, friends and family that I have that are obese, as well as people in our own comment section in other videos that have said similar things, which is essentially that, hey, you know, the people in the Healthy at Every Size movement may have their hearts in the right place, but honestly can do a lot of damage when they continue to perpetuate the self-denial about the problem. And perhaps even worse, when they perpetuate this tribalism, and now we're bringing Alan back into the picture, when they perpetuate this us versus them tribalism, and then all of a sudden people in the movement feel bad for losing weight because it gets stigmatized. Losing weight gets stigmatized within the movement.
Yes, and I understand that, and I can see how that's a problem. And being within the kind of fitness world, we see a lot of that position that you're holding, and I understand that position, and I hold that position similarly.
I remember Tess Holliday even stopped following someone because they lost weight.
I know, and I think that pointing out Tess Holliday is pointing out part of the problem. I think part of the problem is that we're seeing when we talk about this, even I was mentioning that I just was Googling. I was trying to see like healthy at every size, that side of things. And everything I saw was actually reaction video. It was all people in the fitness industry reacting to healthy at every size, people who were big in that movement and things that they were saying and doing. And it was actually kind of hard to like dig through it and find like give me some actual material. Give me what people are saying and what benefits they're getting from this movement. And so I think that some of these larger figures that we see, these people with huge followings, they really cast a bit of a misleading shadow on what the movement is. And so when I was searching, I actually did find some positive sides to what people are getting from the healthy at every size movement, and part of why maybe people are getting upset when they hear Alan Roberts saying things. Now again, I agree, Alan Roberts does not have a negative view of people who are obese. Like it's preposterous. But you can see how people maybe incorrectly are getting defensive, because there are people out there who've gained a lot from the healthy at every size movement. And they're seeing his, when he's kind of attacking people who are leaders in this movement, they're seeing that as a bit of a threat to this movement that they benefited from. And so there are actually people, like, I saw a really great interview on Obese to Beast.
Okay.
On that YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There was a really great interview that he had. It was called My Real Conversation with a Healthy at Every Size Supporter. And it was with a woman named Courtney. And she is someone, she doesn't have a huge following. She's not like a really famous figure in this movement. But she's someone who personally really benefited from the movement. And basically, she grew up being an athlete and playing volleyball and being healthy in that way. And then when she kind of stopped after college, she started really struggling with her weight. She started having a really unhealthy relationship with food. And she went from gaining a bunch of weight to becoming super fit and looking great and getting a bunch of people saying, you look better than ever before. But during that time, having a really unhealthy relationship with food and exercise. And she found solace in the healthy at every size movement and found a much healthier way of being. And you don't hear these stories because you hear about Tess Holliday and Sana Lee all the time.
So let me concede a point right off the bat. You're absolutely right to make a distinction between some of the leaders and some of the bigger names in any movement and some of the actual people who form the movement underneath them. So there's definitely a distinction there. Those with the loudest voices end up being the ones that we see when we look them up, and that happens to be the Sana Lee Rushatoirs and the Tess Hollidays.
More extreme people.
The more extreme people are the ones who suck all the oxygen out of the room, and they're the ones that really dominate a movement. So I get that you're making that distinction, and I think that's completely fair, and that anyone who is pointing out some criticisms in the healthy at every size movement should potentially make that distinction as well, and so that this way we're not attacking everybody in the movement, because that would be ridiculous. That said though, what is a movement if not what is being done by its leaders? What is being pushed by its leaders? And so the problem that I'm having here is the Tess Hollidays and the Sana Lees of the world and the people who are shutting down Alan, they are the ones who are pushing the misleading, harmful, and often self-denial perpetuation and ideas that do harm the people in the movement. I actually see the criticisms that I'm leveling, and sometimes the ones that Alan levels, as trying to protect and help the people in the healthy at every size movement by kind of showing their leaders to be these false idols. And again, no one is saying don't love yourself at any size. Absolutely. No one's saying you don't deserve love. No one's saying beauty doesn't apply to people at every size. But as Alan points out, and this is something that often gets misconstrued by the leaders of the movement, if you love yourself enough to try to be healthy. And the leaders of the movement really try to, mangle what he's saying there and really try to paint him as being an attacker of obese people. And that's not what's happening.
When I was digging, like I said, really trying to see a justification for the idea of taking down his Instagram. I actually found, so on the Instagram that he's using now, I think it's at Alan Roberts EDDF.
Yeah.
That's like the one that he switched to because the other one got shut down. He actually has really great examples of how he's showing very body positive ways of speaking. He has a post, like there were various of them. Yeah. And it was just, I was like, you're making my position too hard. Yeah. On October 18th, I think he has a post, and he's saying specifically, like, if you're obese, rock a bikini, be beautiful, awesome. Like, he's talking about it in a great way. He's like, just don't make the claim that it's healthy to be extremely overweight. And he has a bunch of different examples of it, and And specifically talking about how the beauty side of things and the visual side, that's not what he's talking about, and everyone can be beautiful. And he's just trying to promote health, and he's trying to make the point that, like, medically and scientifically, you can't be healthy when you're extremely...
He wants to change the HAES into the BAS, the beauty at every size.
Ooh,
and you know what? That would be something that would make a lot more sense scientifically. A lot of trainers could get behind. It's totally fair.
And I think that might be comprised more in the body positive movement as opposed to the healthy at every size movement. I don't know. And I found it really tricky because the more I looked into things he was saying, the more I saw that it really corresponds well with the core of the healthy at every size with the body positive movement.
And I think that's a good point. If you actually take a look at Alan's content, the words, you get past the salty language, you actually see this guy's actually quite body positive.
He is.
So some of the arguments that are being leveled against him are ridiculous. But back to the idea of when a movement goes too far. I don't want to belabor the point, but the idea of putting out misleading or deceptive content as some of the leaders, as you point out, the leaders of the Healthy at Every Size movement, and not just all of the followers, but the leaders put out, can be very damaging. And one of the things that they do, and I've heard this from obese people, is they feel powerless as is already in overcoming their situation. The people in the Healthy at Every Size movement, by practicing a form of self-denial, end up enabling people to continue to feel powerless. And as a trainer who's trained obese people, there's no more rewarding of a feeling than when you get someone who previously didn't believe, now suddenly believing that they actually can control their body composition, make a change, and that type of thing. But, okay, I don't want to belabor that point too much. The second point I did want to get into is when a movement goes too far is when they censor the free marketplace of ideas.
It's true. I don't have an argument against this.
Yeah. Okay.
And what you were saying before though, the idea that the movement's gone too far and like the leaders are saying things that are too extreme. One thing that I can't fully argue against though is there are people, like I was saying, this Courtney from Obese to Beast, or being interviewed on there, she is following this movement with these leaders who are extreme and saying damaging things, but still benefited from it. So there, of course, there's going to be people who aren't benefiting from it, but there are people, even though some of the rhetoric is totally wrong, there are still people who are benefiting from it. And then it's like, oh, should we take away this thing that really helped her?
No,
and really help people like her?
And so I agree with that. And I think there's a lot of value in the body positive movement and even in the Healthy at Every Size movement, as you're pointing out. But the problem with some of these movements ends up being when the pendulum swings too far to the extreme. And so the question for me was, have we reached that point with the Healthy at Every Size movement? And so I sit back and I think to myself, okay, well, there's some positive aspects to it, but should we be pushing back? And my answer, when they start censoring people unjustifiably, my answer is yes.
That's valid.
And I actually think that's a potential danger in every sphere of life. I don't want to just put that on the Healthy at Every Size movement. But what are we supposed to do with ideas, especially on YouTube and on social media? We're supposed to contend and combat ideas in open society. We're supposed to have those fights, kind of like what we do here on this channel. And we're supposed to hear from each other. That isn't what's happening with Every Damn Day Fitness and Alan's Instagram page. And in fact, and this is the point I was alluding to earlier, Alan shows a video that kind of demonstrates that his ban wasn't because he actually violated anything, but was because of a concerted campaign from people in the movement who just wanted to censor him. And we'll play the clips that Alan shows of the individual who basically asked and looked for people to complain about Alan so his Instagram page could get taken down. So we'll pop those up.
So if you have time to go back to his account and report the one he put up today. Thank you everyone who has already reported the account Every Damn Day Fitness. I know when you report him, it immediately gives you the response of this account does not violate our community guidelines or whatever. But I do know that when enough people report a post, it does get removed. But yeah, if you have time to report, it's much appreciated.
Okay, so like that's not good.
No, that's very extreme. Like the idea that it becomes. I mean, I was mocking you at the beginning for calling it a conspiracy, but I guess it's kind of a conspiracy.
I mean, it's a concerted effort, even if not a conspiracy. Now, I will point out, Alan actually submitted this video as part of an appeal, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's got his Instagram page back. at some point.
But still, you shouldn't have to go through that process. I was actually thinking about that. Like, there are people. He's more of a YouTuber than an Instagrammer, really.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who, on any social media platform, like, it's their livelihood. He's at a point where, like, social media is a big part of his livelihood. It's not just a little side hobby. He does this really seriously. And the idea that there could be people who just kind of don't agree with you and who can just get enough people to lodge complaints and ruin your livelihood, not because you're actually doing something wrong. The idea of sharing, like, people share videos and repost things all the time.
Including, by the way, the person who complained about him.
Yeah, so that's not, like, the idea that can then be turned against you, that puts everyone on, like, a weird, shaky ground where now they don't know what they can say or do, and that's not good.
Yeah, and you made a point that I hadn't even thought of, which is that people's livelihoods in some cases may be at stake. In Alan's case, it wasn't, because he doesn't rely on Instagram as much. But nonetheless, this is a problem for any movement when there's ridiculous abuses of power, or people are threatened in the way that Alan is being threatened, people's livelihoods are being threatened, or you have a control over the ideas that can get out there. That is a concern for me when I see that kind of censorship. And that applies whether you like or dislike someone's ideas. You shouldn't want illegitimate censorship or an attack of free-flowing thought. So I'll concede and I'll agree with you that, sometimes we end up seeing a lot of the problems in the healthy at every size movement, and this is certainly one of them, and we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So you make a good point there. That said, though, while I think there are some elements that should be preserved, the movement has gone too far.
I can agree with that, and also the idea that I like how you're saying, like, the idea is when a movement is going, no matter what the movement is, it's not supposed to be about policing. It's supposed to be about actually promoting discussion and changing people's points of view, not making them afraid and forcing them into a place where they can or cannot say something. You want actual, genuine change to happen from people, and you don't get that by ruining their social media accounts.
And that's why we value your input. So get into this conversation in the comments below. Let us know what you think. Give us a like, a thumbs up, a subscription, and hit that bell notification as well. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.